Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Terima kasih untuk teman-teman langsung di Pintar Campus di acara Belajar Tanpa Batas. Saya juga mau sapa nih teman-teman yang hadir juga di Zoom dan juga di YouTube. Halo, selamat pagi. Perkenalkan, nama saya Lala, saya juga dari Katalis. Saya akan memandu acara kita di pagi hari ini yang merupakan kerjasama antara Pintar, IA, dan juga Katalis. Belajar Tanpa Batas. Terima kasih kepada tuan rumah Pintar, ada Pak Ray Pulungan, CEO Pintar yang akan menyapa kita sesaat lagi. Nanti juga akan ada Mbak Grace Gunawan, Head of Learning di Pintar, yang akan bergabung dalam diskusi panel. Terima kasih juga kepada AIA, Australia Indonesia Youth Association, yang telah mendukung aktif acara ini. Kita akan mendengar nanti dari Mas Wisnu Trianugraha, atau Mas Wes, selaku National People Officer AIA, dan Mas Cika Nazira yang akan bergabung di panel discussion nanti. Saya juga mau berterima kasih kepada Mbak Luisa dan juga Mas Maro yang akan hadir nanti dari DFAT atau Australian Embassy di Jakarta. Sebagai informasi, acara ini juga disiarkan langsung melalui YouTube channel IA-CEPA ICP Katalis dan juga melalui Zoom. Untuk yang bergabung melalui Zoom, yuk siapkan pertanyaan dan juga komentar, nanti kita akan bacakan di akhir acara. Sebelum kita lanjut ke agenda selanjutnya, saya mau encourage teman-teman yang hadir di kampus Pintar ini untuk live di IG Story atau post di IG Story dengan tag @katalis_IA, @IA_national, dan juga @pintar_co. Kami akan ada hadiah menarik di akhir acara nanti. Oke, langsung aja. Di pagi yang jelang siang hari ini kita ada di Pintar Kampus. Kita mau dengar pengumuman penting nih dari Pintar. Apa itu? Yuk kita panggil langsung aja CEO Pintar, Ray Pulungan.
Oke, ya selamat pagi atau selamat siang ya. Selamat datang di Kampus Pintar. Terima kasih atas kehadirannya untuk teman-teman semua, baik yang offline maupun yang online ya di hari Sabtu produktif ini. Pertama-tama perkenalkan, saya Ray Pulungan, CEO Pintar. Pintar adalah sebuah platform digital untuk menyediakan pendidikan dan pelatihan atau diklat untuk angkatan kerja. Kami di Pintar percaya bahwa menjadi orang terdidik tidak hanya diukur dengan pengetahuan yang kita miliki. Keterampilan atau skills itu sama pentingnya. Kami di Pintar menganalogikan pengetahuan itu seperti strategi, sedangkan keterampilan atau skills itu seperti toolkit yang kita miliki untuk mengimplementasikan strategi tersebut. Sama pentingnya adalah perilaku untuk mencapai hal-hal yang kita inginkan. Perilaku di sini ya yang kami maksud adalah attitude, karakter atau mindset seperti kegigihan, keinginan untuk bekerja keras dan keterbukaan untuk belajar terus. Maka karena itu kami di Pintar selalu mengatakan bahwa Pintar bukan perusahaan penyedia konten pembelajaran. Ya, kami menilai network atau jejaring ya itu tidak kalah pentingnya ya dalam kami berkarya, berwirausaha atau ingin untuk mengembangkan diri ya untuk ke arah lebih baik lagi. Kami selalu di Pintar ingin menghubungkan pembelajar atau pengguna kami kepada berbagai aktor yang memiliki peranan penting dalam proses atau journey pembelajaran pengguna kami. Dan karena itu kami menyediakan wadah untuk menghubungkan learner to learner tentunya, learner to instruktur, tapi juga learner to employer, bahkan learner to buyer ya kalau kita ingin berkarya atau berwirausaha. melalui platform pintar. Saya mungkin ya dulu ya anggota Permias, Perhimpunan Mahasiswa Amerika Serikat, dan sekaligus sempat menjabat sebagai ketuanya. Merasa telat ya untuk menyadari hal ini. Tapi apa yang kalian lakukan ya di AIA ini penting, mempererat tali kedua bangsa negara, Australia Indonesia, melalui people to people connections ya. Dan itu menurut kami proses dari pembelajaran yang lebih dalam, berarti dan penuh makna. Dan tentunya akan berdampak positif ya terhadap sosioekonomi kedua negara ini. Maka karena itu ya mungkin saya nggak tahu pengumumannya apa yang tadi dimaksud oleh Mbak Lala, tapi kami ingin ajak kerjasama ya pintar dengan AIA. Kami sudah melakukan kerjasama dengan Ikatan Alumni Universitas Trisakti, sebentar lagi dengan UNPAD dan himpun-himpun lainnya, di mana kami akan menyediakan program upskilling atau peningkatan keterampilan dan juga memberikan wadah ya untuk para alumni universitas-universitas ini tetap merasa terhubung dengan alma mater tersayang mereka ya atau tercinta mereka. Apakah kita bisa melakukan hal tersebut dengan AIA? Mungkin bisa bertukar pikiran bagaimana kita bisa mewujudkan potensi kerjasama ini nanti setelah ada diskusi panel ya yang sebentar lagi akan berlangsung. Mungkin sekian ya sedikit sambutan dari saya. Saya kembalikan waktu dan tempat kepada Ketua AIA, Claris. Dan sekali lagi terima kasih dan selamat datang di Kamus Pintar. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih Mas Rey. Wah, menarik banget ya dengar apa aja sih kegiatan yang dilakukan Pintar dan juga visi misinya untuk meningkatkan produktivitas angkatan kerja di Indonesia. Oke, nggak lengkap nih kalau kita nggak dengar langsung dari Mitra Pintar, yaitu Katalis. Di sini sudah ada Mbak Clarice Campbell, tapi yang kita udah tahu ya, Mbak Clarice ini punya dua peran, she's wearing two hats. Dia juga sebagai National President di AIA, dia juga sehari-harinya bekerja sebagai Lead Advisor atau penasihat utama di bidang keterampilan untuk Katalis. Oke, silakan Mbak Clarice.
Selamat pagi semua. My name is Clarice Campbell, and as Lala has just mentioned, I am from two organizations today, firstly Catalyst and secondly IA. So I think I might just quickly start with a brief overview of Catalyst, and then I'll go into IA a little bit in some detail. So relating to Catalyst, Catalyst is a 5-year program which has just started in 2021, which focuses on maximising the impact of the Indonesia-Australia Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. Catalyst was created with the support of both the Indonesian and Australian governments and aims to work with businesses across both countries in order to increase economic cooperation between the two countries. It would be a shame if Australia and Indonesia did not, maximise the benefits of the IA-CEPA, considering that we are neighbours and both of our countries should be increasing collaboration with each other. So underneath Catalyst, we do have what we call a skills portfolio. And we think this is a very important portfolio in the sense that there is already a lot of education collaboration between the two countries. We know that many Indonesians go and study in Australia, and I think many of you online and here today are alumni of Australian universities and other education institutions. But we would like to see that increase, and particularly because there is such an emphasis from the Indonesian government to, solve the human resource gap in the workforce. Hence our collaboration with Pintar. And so Catalyst has decided to collaborate closely with Pintar to encourage Australian vocational providers in particular to design and develop course content for the Indonesian workforce. We think this is a really exciting opportunity because there are a lot of Indonesian workers who would love to, learn from Australian education providers, but perhaps don't have the capacity to go and live in Australia. So this is an opportunity that we think is really beneficial to the Indonesian economy and should see increased collaboration between the two countries. So we're looking forward to seeing that collaboration come to fruition. Now, secondly, as Lala mentioned, I'm the National President of the Australia-Indonesia Youth Association. This is a volunteer not-for-profit organisation that aims to better connect young Australians and Indonesians to each other and to Indonesian and Australian opportunities. IA has been around since 2011, so we're just over 10 years old. We have chapters across both countries, 8 in Australia and 5 in Indonesia. But we're always looking for opportunities to expand our presence in both countries. The types of events that we run is actually very broad, mainly because the membership base that we have is also very broad. Because we are a youth association, we attract members ranging from the ages of around 16, so high school leavers to fresh university students, all the way up to sort of early career professionals, so around the ages of 30 to 35. So we have a very broad membership base, which means that we design a range of activities, everything from language exchanges to networking nights to sports days, all with the aim of just better connecting and providing opportunities for young people in both countries, basically to learn about each other, learn about Indonesian culture, learn about Australian culture, and find opportunities for better collaboration. So I'm really excited that all 3 organisations could come together today to have this panel discussion and talk about the opportunities to learn from each other, to seek upskilling opportunities, and just overall increase collaboration. So I thank everybody who has worked very hard behind the scenes today to make this happen, and I'm really looking forward to our session today. So I'll hand it over to Mbak Lala again. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Mbak Clarice. That was really insightful to hear from both Catalyst and IA perspective. Dan menarik sekali, dari Catalyst kita bisa melihat bagaimana business to business connection bisa memperkuat hubungan antara Indonesia dan Australia, tapi juga dari IA untuk people to people relations melalui kegiatan antar pemuda. Nah, kayaknya masih perlu tahu lebih lanjut nih mengenai kolaborasi antara Catalyst dan Pintar. Jadi seperti apa sih kolaborasi antara Pintar dan Catalyst? Kami sudah siapkan video pendek yang kurang lebih memberikan gambaran kepada siapa dan mengapa kolaborasi ini akan bermanfaat bagi angkatan kerja di Indonesia. Oke, bisa diputar videonya?
Hidup ini perlu lebih dari sekedar bertahan. Hari esok harus lebih baik dari hari ini. Gimana mau naik jabatan kalau selalu dianggap gak mumpuni? Andaikan ada cara yang lebih mudah untuk ningkatin keterampilan. Keterampilan harus terus diasah. Belajar tidak lagi kenal batas. Jelajahi kursus untuk tingkatkan keahlianmu. Tingkatkan karir, raih masa depan.
Nah, tadi itu preview atau teaser antara kerjasama Catalyst dan Pintar. Sekarang yuk kita bahas lebih detail tentang kolaborasi antara Pintar dan Catalyst. Tapi bukan hanya itu, kita juga akan bicara tentang upaya menghubungkan Indonesia dan Australia lewat anak muda atau generasi angkatan kerja. Maka peran IA atau Australia Indonesia Youth Association dan juga Pintar sangat penting bagi mitra yang memang bekerja aktif untuk memajukan peluang pendidikan dan profesional. In this session, Mbak Clarice akan memandu diskusi ini bersama pembicara Mbak Grace Gunawan, Head of Learning Pintar, Mas Wisnu Trianugraha atau Wes, National People Officer IA, dan Mas Cika Nazira yang merupakan alumni Melbourne Polytechnic. Tentunya kita pengen dialog ini sangat interaktif, jadi silakan yang punya pertanyaan atau pendapat baik secara offline maupun online bisa disiapkan, nanti kita akan bantu sampaikan. Silakan mengangkat tangan juga untuk yang hadir secara langsung.
Great, thank you. So we're going to get into our panel discussion today, which I'm very excited about because I know all of these people very well, and I'm super excited that they have the opportunity to speak today. So just to start with, I'm going to introduce our panelists and then we can go into our Q&A session. The format of today will be that I will ask a couple of questions to each of our panelists and then we'll open the floor to those of you in the room as well as those joining us via Zoom and YouTube. So to start with, we have Grace. Grace is the head of learning at Pintar, a workforce development platform that you've just heard about from Ray. She has more than 8 years of work experience in the education sector. She has an MA in Instructional Technology and Media from the Teachers College of Columbia University. She leads the learning team to develop quality learning that meets university, industry, and work-ready standards. She also has extensive experience in college preparation programs and working with children with special needs. So thank you so much for joining us today. Next, we have Mas Wes, who is a recent graduate of the Australian National University, majoring in public policy, funded through the Australia Award Scholarship. I think we have a couple of RIS people with us online and in the room too. He's been volunteering with IA since 2014 and has held multiple positions, including chapter president, operations coordinator, and recently became the National People Officer in the newly created People and Culture team. He is currently a KYC analyst at Aspire, a Singaporean fintech company, providing all-in-one finance OS for SMEs across Southeast Asia. Thank you, Wes. And finally, we have Mas Chika. Chika spent a total of 10 years living in Australia and first came to Melbourne in 2000, which is more than 20 years ago now. He completed a bachelor's degree at Melbourne Polytechnic, which is a very well-known vocational institute in Victoria. He was a regular attendee of IA Victoria events and volunteered with the Salvation Army to support Melbourne's homeless community. After graduating, Chika returned back to Indonesia in 2016 and started working as a market research consultant to assist foreign investors who are interested to enter Indonesia through research projects at Bright Indonesia. So thank you so much, Chika, for coming today. So let's just get into it. I'm going to start with Grace. So my question to you is, what courses will be offered by Australian vocational providers on Pintar?
Thank you, Clarice, for the opportunity. So Pintar, in collaboration with Catalyst, will offer courses in primarily 5 fields, but this is not limited to just these 5 fields because we are continuing to discuss with industry partners, also the TVET providers in Australia on the need from both countries. So first, we're going to focus on hospitality and tourism, agriculture, digital economy, health, and also manufacturing. So those are the 5 sectors we're going to start focusing on.
Wonderful. And how did you arrive at the decision to offer courses in those specific sectors? Was it based on industry demand or sort of feedback from companies that you're working with?
So prior to this collaboration, we collaborated a lot with Catalyst to kind of discuss what are the needs from especially Australia and Indonesia. And we thought that these 5 sectors are particularly just very practical skills that people can learn from and also continue to build pathways either through learning and also potentially work opportunities. So in order to strengthen the collaboration between Indonesia and Australia and the businesses in both countries, we particularly work with the TVET providers because as we know, Australia is very strong in especially health, agriculture, and also hospitality and tourism. And the increasing demand of workers and the quality that both countries need, so not just Australia, but also Indonesia. And in order to fulfill the kind of the global demand, so we thought that, again, these courses would just be very hands-on and very tangible for especially Indonesian workers that don't get an opportunity to go to Australia right away to kind of get a taste and continue to build from there. Yeah, and particularly also digital economy and manufacturing. As we know, technology keeps developing. The shift of kind of demand in the skills in those particular areas will also continue to evolve. So we just want to work with our industry partners, enterprise partners, to really meet those demands of the local workers.
Yeah, wonderful. And can you let us know a little bit more about the target audience? I think, working with, employees of companies, that's really broad, right?
Yep.
So do you have a target audience in mind, or is it that anybody can enroll in these courses? What's the rationale behind that?
So of course, we will open these courses to the general public. But in order to get the word out, we will work with first our enterprise partners and also with the partners from Catalyst as well, to really make sure that the people who will benefit the most from these courses will get enrolled. And then we will continue to spread the word, because these courses will continue to be offered on our platform, and we will continue to develop more courses in the future. So yeah.
And I might just add a question in, you're an Indonesian company and you didn't have to work with Australia. You could have worked with anybody, really.
Yeah.
So what was it specifically about, I guess, working with Australia that sort of piqued your interest?
I think in this particular 5 sectors, Australia has just had a very strong track record in producing, I think, quality education. As particularly in hospitality tourism, there's a lot of tourism that happens between Australia and Indonesia. Health is one very strong sector that I know that Australia continues to support, and it has a very disciplined and also high quality standards of education to fulfill it. And agriculture as well, as we know, particularly sustainable agriculture, it's continued to develop in Australia, and Indonesians as well. We're a very vast country with a lot of resources. So I think just providing, again, that opportunity for local Indonesians to learn from, I think, such a global standard would be a great opportunity.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's always nice to hear that, companies look to Australia in a really positive light, even if there hasn't been a lot of collaboration necessarily. So yeah, we really appreciate that. Now I'm going to go to Mas Wes, and I'm going to switch languages now, because we are, anak Jaksel, and we use Indonesian and English intermittently. Mas Wes, upskilling perlu untuk generasi angkatan kerja Indonesia. Bagaimana Ayah melihat peluang untuk ditawarkan pintar, dan dalam hal ini melalui kemitraannya dengan penyedia pendidikan dari Australia?
I'm just gonna use bahasa Indonesia sama bahasa Inggris. Tapi dari Surabaya, bukan Jaksel. Mohon maaf. Dari Ayah sendiri, menurut saya pribadi sangat it's an opportunity to see that ada banyak pilihan-pilihan yang member kita bisa pilih. So I think, in my own opinion, I grew up with my parents. They were like 60 years old. So the ideas of studying itu kan cuma ke kampus, kuliah, balik pulang, terus kuliah lagi, dan setelah itu kita langsung masuk ke workforce labor. Dan I think nowadays kayak itu bukan sesuatu yang for a lot of people impossible, karena kan sangat banyak kompetisi, sangat banyak pilihan-pilihan labor in the market. Jadi kita harus mempunyai some sort of skills that we can kind of like sell. And I think it's important that our members understand that there are options for us, not just going to university in a traditional setting, tapi juga pergi ke like vet, like in Australia for example, di mana kita juga dapat membantu memberikan informasi kira-kira pilihan apa saja yang bisa member kita ambil yang sesuai dengan arahan-arahan dari pemerintah Indonesia, seperti itu.
Thank you. Jadi untuk anggota Ayah, mungkin ini peluang yang baik kan? Setidaknya informasi yang bermanfaat untuk membantu mereka menentukan pilihan belajar atau upskilling. Seperti apa minat anggota Ayah untuk belajar? Apa yang mendorong mereka?
Minat belajar menurut saya sangat baik ya, karena kita juga banyak acara kita yang sangat bertemakan edukasi, tapi juga banyak juga social learning juga, cultural learning juga, dan kita selalu mempunyai banyak attendees di acara-acaranya, nggak cuma di Jakarta tapi juga di Jogja, di NTT, di Sulawesi Selatan, di Bandung juga, dan juga kita juga terutama di Jogja kita juga mempunyai beberapa komite member yang berasal dari Australia. Jadi menurut saya salah satu hal yang menarik di mana member-member kita sangat suka hangout kasarannya dengan Aya karena juga mereka juga tertarik dengan kebudayaan Australia juga dan sepertinya mereka juga sangat intrigued with the appeal of like living in Australia, environment dan juga banyak juga orang-orang yang sudah sangat eksplisit mengatakan kalau memang mereka ingin ke Australia karena memang they've got one of the best research centers and skills providers as well.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I mean, I know your story, but maybe other people don't necessarily know. And I find it really interesting because you're, as you said, from Surabaya. You didn't necessarily have a deep connection to Indonesia, to Australia, through your family or anything. So how did you become interested in Australia? Why did you want to study in Australia? And can you just tell us a little bit about how you ended up there and your journey, essentially? We have an hour.
This might be a bit of a long story. I'll make it short.
No, it's okay. You can go into as much detail as you need.
Ya, jadi awal-awalnya itu karena waktu SMA kelas 10 itu direkrut sama guru bahasa Inggris di sekolah untuk bantu Bridge Project. So Bridge Project is one of the long-lasting DFAT initiative, which basically bridge Indonesian schools and Australian schools. So it's a sister school program. Kebetulan waktu itu SMA 15 Surabaya waktu itu punya sister school di Margaret River dan Community College. Dan itu saya diminta untuk menjadi salah satu murid untuk membantu programnya. Sewaktu kelas 12 akhirnya saya karena sudah membantu selama 2 tahun akhirnya diundang untuk datang ke Darwin untuk cultural exchange selama 10 hari. Dan ternyata sebelum saya mau berangkat, papa saya bilang, papa dulu juga sempat kuliah di Australia, di TAFE SA, di Adelaide. Jadi, dan itu waktu itu kurang tahu waktu itu. Aku juga kurang tahu, jadi kayak ternyata like following my dad's footsteps to a certain degree. Jadi mulai setelah itu, aku juga mulai terekspos tentang bagaimana environment di Australia dan opsi-opsinya seperti apa. Dan sewaktu SMA menjelang kuliah itu sebenarnya aku pengennya masuk sekolah masak. Tapi sekali lagi kan orang tua umurnya 60 tahun, jadi sangat tradisional dalam pemikirannya. Jadi kayak kamu nggak boleh masuk sekolah masak, kamu harus ke universitas. Akhirnya masuklah saya ke HI-UGM. Tapi di selain HI-UGM setiap kali sempat selama beberapa bulan setelah pulang kampus langsung ke sekolah masak, diam-diam untuk latihan masak. Dan nggak sengaja waktu itu ada bukaan juga beasiswa dari pemerintah Australia, dari Department of Education, Skills and Employment. Itu Endeavour, sekarang sudah nggak ada Endeavour tapi diganti Destination Australia. Jadi waktu itu Endeavour mobility program, jadi aku akhirnya bisa exchange selama setahun di Adelaide. Jadi lucunya adalah Adelaide University dan TAFE SA itu sebelahan. Jadi papa sering kayak ngomong, kamu bisa beli chicken pie dengan harga $5 dan kayak pie itu tahun 1990 udah nggak ada $5 chicken pie lagi. Jadi mulai dari situ sempat ikut IA 2014 sebagai member di South Australia. Setelah itu begitu balik ke Jogja waktu itu lagi barusan aja buka chapter baru. Akhirnya mulai aktif Jogja. Setelah itu setelah lulus di UGM pindah ke Jakarta, sempat join Jakarta. Terus luckily dapat beasiswa lagi dari pemerintah Australia tahun 2020 untuk ambil S2 di ANU Kebijakan Publik, dan di sana juga aktif di IA-CEPA juga, tapi waktu itu sudah dengan IA nasional. Jadi ya itu sudah kayaknya udah panjang banget ya itu ya ceritanya.
No, thank you so much for that insight, Wes, because I think it's important to highlight that you didn't necessarily have a connection to Australia. You're an average Indonesian who, just sort of found yourself sort of in this community. And that can kind of happen to anyone. And I think for those of us who've had the privilege of having some sort of international education experience, that's often the case. And it's not necessarily unreachable. So, finding those small opportunities, for you it started through the Bridge School partnership, it's just a sister school. scenario, and then it has turned into something that's completely changed your life, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So now I'm going to go to Chika. Sebagai alumnus Australia, pengalamannya seperti apa belajar di sana? Apakah sesuai ekspektasi?
Kalau soal ekspektasi ya, waktu belajar di Australia itu sebenarnya nggak ada ekspektasi sih. Karena waktu itu mulainya itu kan aku mulai belajar di Australia itu waktu SMA ya gitu. Jadi waktu ada perbedaannya sih waktu dari SMP di Indo di Jakarta, terus pindah ke SMA di Australia kayak kayaknya pelajarannya lebih mudah ya kalau di Australia sini ya kayaknya, makanya nilaiku kan bagus-bagus semua ya gitu. But then eventually like I sort of just accepted it kayak udah kayak gini lah apa namanya belajar di Australia gitu. Tapi mungkin yang membuat membuat pengalaman belajar di Australia itu sangat baik itu sih waktu universitas, karena waktu itu mengambil degree in accounting gitu di Melbourne Polytechnic juga, and none of my high school friends go there gitu istilahnya, kayak jadi nggak ada teman juga gitu, kayak pas masuk sini kayak siapa ya ini semua gitu. Terus di kelas itu agak rame. Terus ternyata I found out later that I was like the youngest student in there gitu. Walaupun kayak ya itu kan it's like a bachelor's degree gitu kan, first year and all that. Ternyata like I was the only 18-year-old in there and everyone else was like in their 20s or 30s or even something like that. Tapi untungnya sih kayak di situ no one is judging you, it's like everyone's on the same boat lah istilahnya gitu. Jadi di sini nggak ada yang junior, senior, or whatever, like we're all learning together, and everyone is really into the teamwork basically. Jadi mau belajar kelompok, belajar kerjasama itu kayak itu kuat banget lah gitu. Semuanya ingin berusaha untuk memberikan kontribusi yang terbaik lah kepada kelompoknya gitu. So I think like even though I came to a university institution that where I didn't know anyone at all, I made some friends in the end, and that made it really, really easy, to go through all the 3 years of studies that I did in my Bachelor of Accounting, basically.
Great, thanks. I just want to expand on that a little. So you said you've done a Bachelor of Accounting and that you went to Melbourne Polytechnic. And I guess for some people it's sort of an unusual choice because Melbourne Polytechnic is first and foremost a vocational institute, although they do obviously offer higher education degrees. And it's a little bit different to some of the other universities that Australia has. Wes, you've studied at the University of Adelaide and Australian National University, and those two institutions fall into what we call the Group of 8. They are part of the 8 best universities in Australia, which are within the 100 best universities in the world, whereas Melbourne Polytechnic is not necessarily. So why did you ultimately choose Melbourne Polytechnic? What was it that made you go, you know what, I won't bother applying for one of these Group of 8 universities. Actually, what Melbourne Polytechnic is offering, I don't know whose phone that is, what Melbourne Polytechnic is offering is actually better suited to me.
Melbourne Polytechnic, kenapa juga ambil yang akuntansi? So the thing was that it wasn't really a choice that I made. When I was in year 12, actually my target university was RMIT, and the degree that I wanted to take was in aerospace engineering. The reason being that I was really interested in airplanes in general, and a lot of the subjects that I took were physics, chemistry, like all the science subjects, I took them all in year 12. Even though my marks weren't that great anyway. Tapi
karena lebih tertarik ke bagian engineering kayak gitu, jadi targetnya pengen ke RMIT. Cuma habis itu orang tua aku tuh bilang kayak gini, masalahnya di RMIT itu mahal banget SPP-nya gitu. Ya kayak kita beda ya gitu, karena kalau di orang-orang Australia itu, kalau warga negara itu mereka bisa ambil kayak semacam student loan kayak gitu. Tapi kan kita kan bukan ya, kayak kita kan nggak punya fasilitas itu, jadi harus bayar penuh, full fee lah istilahnya gitu for international students gitu. So I thought about it, kayak ya maybe they're right. I think I have to rethink again, where should I go gitu. And it's kind of hard because aerospace engineering degrees, like most of them exist in, you know, the typical bigger universities like Melbourne Uni, RMIT ada, Monash I think also has it. And then I sort of tried to rethink other degrees that I could do, maybe something else I could be interested in. And then my dad suggested, kenapa enggak accounting aja di Melbourne Polytechnic? Terus kan kayak, I don't know, I'm not really into money and finance stuff like that gitu. Tapi katanya, yeah, but the thing is, kalau lihat di sini, ini accounting but with a major in sustainability gitu. And this is kind of unusual kalau menurut dia gitu, karena kayak biasanya kan kalau sustainability itu kan orang mikirnya kayak lingkungan, you know, environment, green stuff and all that. Tapi digabungin sama accounting itu kayak menarik gitu, beda loh gitu. Belum pernah ada yang melakukan hal seperti itu. So because it's almost like two different disciplines, but you know, how do you combine those together? But Melbourne Polytechnic at that time, they went from called Northern Melbourne Institute of TAFE, NMIT, and they rebranded to Melbourne Polytechnic. And when I first came in, you know, that was the first year they started offering a bachelor's degree gitu. Jadi sebenarnya itu kalau kayak institusi kayak NMIT, TAFE itu ya istilahnya, kalau di Victoria itu, kita sebenarnya nggak boleh menawarkan kayak degrees kayak S1, S2 and all that, but they did it like that. But you know, they had and rebranded gitu, jadi mereka berganti jadi Melbourne Polytechnic. And I looked at the gimana ya, kayak the degree and what they're offering, the institution, and I thought, oh yeah, I think I could go into it. And to this day, I don't think I regret it at all, karena ternyata ya their standards are pretty good, surprisingly gitu ya, even though like, you know, maybe when compared to Melbourne Uni, Monash, RMIT, everybody knows exactly how it's like, tapi kayak Melbourne Polytechnic ternyata yeah, it's pretty good, surprisingly. You know, when they first started there back in 2013, they did it, yeah.
That's great. I think a lot of people have had actually very positive experiences studying at vocational institutes. And fun fact, Australia, well, prior to the pandemic, had around 20,000 international students on average who were studying there. But actually more than half of the Indonesian international students actually study at vocational institutes. So it's not just all the universities. And I think it is because of that sort of community vibe, and you know, the actual courses that are offered there are actually more closely aligned with what the Indonesian workforce is looking for. So my next question to you, Chika, is bagaimana bekal pendidikan di Australia menjadi model bekerja saat ini?
Makasih ya. Bisa dibilang setelah belajar di Australia itu, walaupun awalnya itu nggak terlihat ya ininya ya, apa namanya, hasilnya awalnya pikir kayak, oh udah sekarang nih udah selesai S1 akuntansi, tapi pas mau cari kerja di Australia kok agak susah ya gitu, kayak it's so competitive gitu, karena banyak banget yang juga ingin memasuk ke lapangan kerja gitu, tapi kayak posisi kan ya sedikit ya, terbatas gitu. Sebenarnya kayak it's like yeah, you know, currently like that's the case right in the job market. Tapi waktu itu lagi iseng-iseng aja apply kerjaan di Jakarta gitu. Terus ada perusahaan konsultasi gitu yang mencari intern ya istilahnya gitu. Mereka mencari intern gitu, terus ya posisinya ya seperti ini, kita butuhnya seperti ini gitu. So I randomly just applied for it. Terus ternyata minggu depannya itu dapat jawaban, oh kita pengen interview dong gitu. Oh boleh gitu. Interviewnya jam segini gitu. Terus di situ agak salah sedikit sih, karena at that time kayak lupa gitu kalau time zone-nya Australia di Melbourne ya, dan di Jakarta itu waktu itu perbedaannya itu kalau nggak salah lagi 4 jam. Nah waktu itu aku pikirnya 3 jam because of the daylight saving stuff like that. Jadi sebenarnya hampir salah tuh. Jadi udah arrange time-nya jam segini, ternyata pas dilihat jamnya, oh enggak, di Jakarta sekarang udah jam segini. So sebenarnya waktu ikut interviewnya itu agak terburu-buru dan nggak siap gitu istilahnya. But they were actually impressed with what I put in my CV because they saw the sustainability and the accounting degree in my CV gitu. Buat mereka itu
is because at the vocational institutions, they have to work very closely with employers, to understand what are employers actually looking for. The role of a university oftentimes is more around, research and sort of tackling those, I suppose, larger questions in life. Whereas for vocational institutes, they're like, what does the workforce need? How can we adjust to that? We're going to deliver courses that are aligned with what industry needs. So what's your experience actually being at Melbourne Poly and their connections to industry? Did you have any opportunities for sort of practical placements, or do you think it was perhaps a little bit more hands-on than if you had have studied at a university?
Okay, that's an interesting one. I was thinking about it actually. I don't know if the subject exists in university in a typical Bachelor of Accounting degree in the other universities, but I do remember that in my second year, there is a subject called Industry Practicum. Jadi itu kayak semacam subjek yang kita ambil itu, intinya itu satu semester itu kita dilatih untuk istilahnya kayak apply kerjaan, minta ya maksudnya kita melakukan semacam job placement, internship atau semacamnya gitu. Tapi kita itu melakukannya dengan sendiri gitu. Jadi di sini istilahnya nggak ada KKN-nya gitu, kayak dimasukin langsung jadi gitu. Padahal belum di interview, belum di apa gitu. Jadi keuntungannya di sini adalah sebenarnya kayak karena kita disuruh untuk mencari job placement, tapi kita harus melakukannya dengan sendiri. Tapi mereka Melbourne Polytechnic itu mereka membantu dengan resource-nya seperti di training untuk interview, di training untuk cara menulis CV dengan benar seperti itu. Dan setiap kegiatan yang kita lakukan untuk self development ya, untuk membangun kita skill kita sendiri itu kita harus tulis dalam jurnal gitu. Jadi kayak semacam it's like a logbook in a way. So let's say 1 hour I studied, interview techniques with a big 4 company, for example, kayak gitu. Sad to say sebenarnya, I didn't get any placements at all for the whole semester. The reality is what I've said already, itu memang kompetitif banget sih, job marketnya di Australia itu memang. Tapi skill yang aku pelajari selama 1 semester itu sebenarnya ya akhirnya itu juga sebenarnya membangun kepercayaan diri juga sih gitu. So in the end, like at the beginning of the semester, I was probably this sort of person who kayak kalau ada interview gimana nih, panik, takut, ya all that stuff gitu. Tapi setelah semester itu berakhir, udah selesai itu semua, walaupun nggak dapat placement, guruku itu bilang, oh wow, like your interview, sorry not interview skills, but your interview preparation sekarang itu udah lebih baik gitu. So like you're doing much better gitu. Ada progresnya gitu ternyata. So I think I'm not sure if they offer something like that in university, but for me, like the fact that they dedicated one semester, one subject just for that, I think that's pretty good. And I think all universities, doesn't matter in Australia atau di Indo atau dimanapun itu, minimal mungkin untuk kayak graduates ya kayak gitu, apalagi yang ingin masuk ke job market itu sebenarnya perlu sih ada kayak semacam subjek yang bisa yang kita itu mempelajari interview skills and those sort of stuff sih ya untuk mempersiapkan diri masuk ke dalam job market.
I think that's a really great insight that you have there. I think I went to a university in Australia. I went to Monash University, and I felt, when I finished, what am I going to do with my life? How do I do interviews and all of this sort of thing? So it's really great that you had that opportunity to get real, I guess, industry insight into what is this process like, and be relaxed during that. So I'm going to come back to Grace. You're the head of learning, which I think is a very big role and a very important role. But it means that you're obviously collaborating very closely with a lot of Indonesian employers and sort of hearing insights around skills trends and what they're looking for and all of that sort of thing. So in Indonesia, what do you anticipate are some of the learning trends that we might expect to see?
Well, I think the obvious is the STEM IT sector, right? That's continuing to grow, and in parallel with that is the digital economy. But the other sectors that I mentioned are, I think, sectors that are continuing to grow, and like what Jika shared, the soft skills in particular are things that I think sometimes we lose or we forget. Because we focus so much on the tangible skills, but the in between, the supporting, the scaffolding, I think is really what brings someone to success. And that's what I keep hearing from employers. A lot of times people are good at their jobs, but they lack maybe just the critical thinking aspect, or how to be proactive, how to take ownership of a project. So I think those additional soft skills are, when embedded in the technical skills, are just something that will really bring the Indonesian workforce much more forward.
Yeah, that's great. And so in the project with Catalyst, we're sort of looking at creating what we call micro credentials, which are very sort of short courses and sort of bite-sized courses for people to undertake in only essentially a couple of hours. Yeah. Because there is sort of a trend for this I want to learn something very quickly and have some sort of certificate to show. So why are micro-credentials the next best thing for those looking to expedite their upskilling experience?
I think, as we know, in usually traditional universities, there's a extensive time commitment. I know people can still take courses online. They can extend the kind of like the time they take it, but micro-credentials, we call it bite size. So, they're just really like snacks, munchies that you can take, in your spare time, in a short time period, for example, in 1 week or in a couple of weeks, and then you really get, I think, the most of that particular topic. And I think what's really cool about this collaboration is we are collaborating directly with TVET providers, in which most of the courses will have credentials from these Australian vocational institutions. So, one day if you decide to continue to your studies, etc., we're continuing to hope to build pathways there as well. So I think micro credentials is just a really tangible way that Indonesian workers of all ages can take a taste of what they're interested in, and if they really enjoy it, they can take the full set and then potentially go on to a master's degree, etc. So
Yeah, no, that's really insightful. And for those of you who are unaware of what TVET actually means, it's Technical Vocational Education and Training. So that's just another name for vocational provider. And so, you know, while we've got this project sort of coming together, you know, it's still a little while until we can actually deliver some courses, but you guys are already working with Indonesian companies to provide upskilling opportunities. So what sort of courses are you actually delivering, or what are your most sort of popular courses at the moment?
I think primarily in IT, language learning, and also business and leadership. So we work with Prakerja to offer these courses to the general public, and primarily we work with our enterprise partners, but we are continuing to build our course catalog and offer more courses for the general public as well.
Great, that's really insightful. Wes? Grace mentioned basically the need for critical thinking was a big one that a lot of employers are sort of looking for in Indonesia. So because you've studied at an Australian institution and then you've come back to Indonesia and now you're sort of working in the Indonesian system, how important has this skill been for your professional life?
Very important, I think. I think I also had the privilege of going to both Indonesian university and also Australian university, and I can say that the teaching style is completely different between the two. Like I think when people say that one of the best thing you can learn dengan belajar di Australia adalah critical thinking, that is actually one of the best thing you can actually learn. Jadi kalau di Australia itu untuk kelasku itu kita ada 2 sesi. Yang pertama adalah lecture, di mana ada sekitar 50-60 orang in a big auditorium belajar bareng, dan itu lebih kayak ke tradisional, di mana kayak kita profesornya memberikan lecture dan kita cuma duduk mendengarkan dan mungkin here and there tanya jawab sedikit-sedikit. Tapi setelah itu ada sesi tutorial di mana dari 50 orang itu kemudian dipotong menjadi regrouped into a few smaller I guess groups, sekitar 10, 20 orang, 15 orang, and that's kind of like when the discussion comes in. Jadi kita sangat sarankan dengan sangat disarankan untuk membaca journal. I did not read my journal sometime when I was at uni. I read it like last minute. Tapi waktu di Australia itu like it's a little bit jarring if everyone else is talking and you're not talking. Dan itu secara nggak langsung membuatku juga terdorong untuk lebih aktif, lebih proaktif untuk belajar di luar waktu kuliah juga. Dan dari diskusi dengan teman-teman dan dengan profesor, dengan tutor itu di mana kita like we can eventually build the critical skills to think about mungkin just because the textbook says this, it doesn't mean that it's the only thing that we need to accept. Jadi banyak diskursnya adalah author ini ngomongnya A, tapi kenapa author ini ngomong A? Apakah ada opsi lain di mana itu mungkin yang opsi B lebih cocok untuk konteks tersendiri kan? Jadi pembicaraan seperti itu yang sangat ditekankan di Australia dibandingkan dengan menurutku di waktu aku kuliah. Bukan berarti waktu aku kuliah di Indonesia tidak ada sesi-sesi seperti itu. Tentu saja ada. Cuman menurutku there's just a lot more emphasis dengan waktuku kuliah di Australia dibandingkan dengan waktu Indonesia, karena waktu itu aku kurang tahu bagaimana kondisinya sekarang, cuman waktu itu memang kita ada 8 mata kuliah ya, rata-rata orang Indonesia kalau kuliah sudah 7-8 mata kuliah sepertinya normal, dan itu kita punya satu pertemuan tiap minggu 2 jam dan itu dibagi 8 kelas, jadi 16 jam untuk belajar. Jadi kalau di Australia kita cuma 3-4 mata kuliah dan itu adalah 1 jam untuk lecture, 2 jam untuk lecture, 1 jam untuk tutorial. Jadi memang dari sistemnya tersendiri itu mereka sangat mendorong untuk discussion that kind of like builds your critical thinking skills.
Yeah, that's really great. I think it's sort of important to have those opportunities and sort of use that in your professional life for sure. So I know that you both have completed degrees in Australia, but I'm sort of interested to hear if you have ever done an online course of some kind, or whether perhaps your peers have done an online course similar to what sort of Pintar is offering, and any sort of reflections that you have on this sort of new shift to the, I suppose, non-traditional ways of learning?
I can start first. Yeah. I also had I guess, I wouldn't say this is a privilege, but as much as a opportunity to study during the course of the pandemic that a lot of people also experience. Dan seperti banyaknya yang like everyone else experience di Indonesia, beberapa kelasku juga akhirnya pindah ke online. So there's a lot of emphasis again for the professors, for the lecturers to shift the way that they, teach into kind of like a learning, like a distance learning, like a remote learning. Dan akhirnya mulai dari itu juga banyak juga like small courses yang akhirnya tersedia dan itu terbuka untuk umum dalam artian semua orang di Australia bisa datang dan apa namanya duduk di kelas secara online. Dan di teman-teman ke kantor saya sendiri juga banyak beberapa orang yang barusan kemarin juga ngobrol kayak kalau memang ada opportunity untuk belajar untuk dapat sertifikasi secara online tanpa harus pindah domisili ya, itu sudah sangat berguna sekali karena kan for full-time workers kebetulan kantor kita juga mempunyai policy di mana kita bisa bekerja work from everywhere. Cuman karena memang kolega-koleganya semua pada di Jakarta, jadi akan lebih mudah untuk kolaborasi di Jakarta. Maka dari itu kita sangat-sangat like we're more leaning towards looking at online courses yang bisa kita lakukan di kasarnya tempat di mana kita kerja seperti itu.
Chica?
Kalau lihat progresi ini ya online course dari waktu aku dulu kuliah itu sampai sekarang itu it's very interesting to see itu kayak I think maybe because of the pandemic as well ya, when suddenly all of us has to start studying online, we can't do face-to-face classes and all that stuff. I feel like there are more choices now for you to study all sorts of things, and you don't really have to think about, oh, should I get another degree? Should I, go to this uni or whatever? Karena kayak sekarang itu opsi untuk belajar itu sekarang udah banyak banget. Kayak, I'm really surprised now to hear kayak in Indonesia at least itu kayak edtech providers itu banyak banget gitu. So we're not running out of options itu. I don't believe that university degrees will be replaced entirely by short courses or whatever. But I do think that, yes, you should pursue a degree nevertheless, but, don't stop your learning just because you've graduated and now you got a master's degree or PhD, whatever, because like these short courses, they actually, I think they teach you a lot of these skills that I think even in a university degree, it wouldn't fit or make sense in a scheduled way. So for example, like what I'm learning right now is data analytics. So this is a course from Google, and this is offered on Coursera. So Coursera is a very big education platform, online education platform, which I've been using since 2014. And it's quite surprising that just the way that I'm learning it's quite different. I'm still trying to get used to it, but to me, it kind of makes sense as opposed to, I don't know, do I have to look for a bachelor of data analytics or something like that? Because like, I don't think that exists, I think. And I would have to spend like another 4 years learning on that. Whereas in this online courses that I've seen, it's very flexible. You don't have to do it during the day. You could do it during the night. Sometimes, well, of course, I think some offer learning together with others as well, with your peers. And that's kind of good, in a way, so that at least like you're learning together, you're not learning just by yourself, and you get to discuss with each other. So I think, there has been, very good developments of how online courses are now kind of supplementing the traditional university degrees right now. And I think that's really good.
Thank you so much for that insight. I think you make a really good point when you say that just because you have a degree doesn't mean you stop learning. And I think that's something that we all sort of experience throughout our lifetimes, you know, when we're all sort of getting into a new job or something, and then we go, oh, do I have time to like learn something new? Well, you do now with, you know, all of these online course options available, and it's a sort of exciting time to sort of experience that, because you realize, oh, yes, my degree was in X subject, but actually I can learn about all of these other things too. So we might now go to the Q&A. I can see there are quite a number of chats in the Zoom, but if anybody in the room here has a question for our panelists, we might start with that first and then we'll go to the Zoom questions. So Mauro, we can start with you. Is there a...
Saya Indonesia also.
Yeah, that's okay. Just campur aja.
Terima kasih banyak teman-teman semua. So my name is Maro. I'm from DFAT, Australian Embassy Jakarta, from the team that actually oversight Catalyst and as an investment. So thank you so much for today's event. It has been a really fruitful discussion. My question would be for Grace as the head of learning from Pintar. So some of the issues that are really important for the Australian and Indonesia government are actually on the issues of women's empowerment and social inclusion. I guess one of the things that I do want to ask is on whether the platform that Pintar and the TVET providers facilitated by Catalyst will work on, have there been any consideration to make sure that it would be accessible, including for people with disabilities? Sebagai contoh, misalnya teman-teman tuli, apakah nanti formatnya itu akan memastikan ada teksnya apabila itu membuat mereka learning experience-nya lebih bagus? Bagaimana dengan teman-teman low vision yang mungkin membutuhkan font yang lebih besar atau mereka with visual impairment? So I guess it will be good to have some share your insight, Bu Grace. Apakah ada rencana ke situ? Jadi mungkin yang trainer dari Australia lebih di substansi secara kurikulum, tapi learning formatnya itu lebih teman-teman pintar. So that's my first question. Yang kedua, mengetahui bahwa sepertinya fokus target audience-nya, tadi Clarice juga sudah menanyakan lebih pada industri, apakah itu lebih fokus nanti kepada korporasi di kota-kota industri seperti Jakarta, Surabaya, Medan, atau juga ada rencana untuk bisa expand ke korporasi yang mungkin lebih di subnasional level, tapi memang ada appetite di sana. Misalnya saya membicarakan seperti BUMDes, Badan Usaha Milik Desa, topik digital economy, agriculture, itu sebenarnya ada appetite banget berdasarkan pengamatan kami di Kedutaan Besar Australia. So maybe I'll stop at that. Thank you.
Maraya. Okay, thank you for the two questions. The first one, even from the proposal, we make sure that we work with vocational institutions that will provide JEDC standards. Jadi, I forgot what it stands for, gender equality, diversity, disability, social inclusion. Yeah, so we will adhere by those standards, and also although the material will be primarily in English, but it will be translated and contextualized into Bahasa. So we will work with third-party vendors as well to provide translation and also localization. So the answer is yes for that. And for the second one, again, we are open, but I think the challenge here is this is a new program, so we will first tap into our direct network. But of course, if anyone hearing about this opportunity knows anyone that is interested to take these courses, please do connect with us, and we do want this opportunity to be as broad as possible. So we're not limiting just to the industry, cities, or certain target partners, but instead we do want to provide this opportunity for as many learners as possible. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I think we had a question. Yeah.
Thanks for the opportunity and next explanation and next experience from all panelists, because I'm still studying in university. For the first, I want to ask Miss Grace, what makes Pintar different from other learning platform? Is there any advantage that Pintar has that is applied? Because honestly, when I'm learning online, it's not easy as face to face. And then even though we are used, Oh yeah, okay. Even though we are used to it because the pandemic, but sometimes we need directly to practice directly. So how do Pintar to dealing with this? Okay, and next for all panelists, I want to ask, what is important thing that must be prepared beside when entering the world of work, selain dari skills. Thank you.
Sorry, can you clarify the second question again? Can you repeat the second question?
Second question.
Yeah.
Important thing that must be prepared besides skill when entering the world of work.
Oh, okay. Enggak, tadi kan ada pertanyaan, what is the difference between pintar, and then the second one? When you learn
Practice
online.
directly.
Practice direct. So how to apply it?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Okay, yeah. All right. So I would say I'm not gonna talk about others, but I think Pintar, our main target audience is the Indonesian workforce. So we focus on reskilling and upskilling just anyone who wants to learn. So we're not restricted by age, but of course our primary target is people who have graduated from middle school and up. So once you're in vocational education or SMA, you can start taking our courses to prepare yourselves either for, again, university. If you choose to work earlier, you can get hands-on learning in that. So I would say that's our distinction, and that's where we will continue to kind of strengthen our footprint there. And then in terms of the practice side of it, our Prakerja courses are primarily asynchronous, but when we work with universities and enterprise partners, we do make sure that there is a live session that ensures that the learners have time to ask questions, they have time to clarify any learning that is unclear. And I think in the future, we will continue to add on focus groups, or just maybe in bahasa like Kopi Darat, just community of learners that they can come together and continue to discuss what they're learning. So I think that's what's primarily missing from asynchronous and online learning, but we continue to work with partners to kind of like enhance that learning opportunity. Yeah, and the last question I'll let President.
Tadi apa kira-kira apa yang harus dipersiapkan selain yang skill? I think for me just the willingness to try something new. Karena dengan filosofi di mana kamu nggak bakalan tahu apa yang kamu suka kalau kamu nggak sok nyoba. Jadi so if you have any things for me, karena kan aku juga tertarik untuk masak, jadi aku juga ikutan kelas masak here and there. Kalau kamu melihat ada acara atau kamu melihat ada kayak course yang that you found really interesting, like try it. Terutama kalau memang itu available dalam artian budgetmu juga sangat you can afford it with your budget. Jadi setiap kali kamu ada kesempatan, ada event, ada kelas yang menurutmu ini sebenarnya menarik gitu, cobalah. Karena it's when you know like you're good at something and you're not good at something. Waktu itu salah satu contohnya adalah aku juga sempat kerja juga sales. And mindsetku adalah, I've never done sales before. I'm gonna try, like to see if I'm good at it. I'm bad at it, like very very bad at it. Jadi mulai dari situ aku udah mulai memikirkan ke depannya kayak, okay, kalau misalnya aku nyari kerja, like in a fintech or like in any kind of like industry, aku tahu kira-kira satu posisi yang dimana aku akan sangat jauhi. So like if there's any positions in sales, any like commercial, then like I'm not gonna go there karena aku sudah tahu I'm not a great candidate for that particular position. Dan itu adalah aku taunya kan memang aku nyoba-nyoba dulu. So terutama karena untuk teman-teman semua yang masih kuliah, like the opportunities are endless. Like I got into IA karena waktu itu juga ditawarin apakah mau ikutan acara language exchange di Adelaide. And so I never heard of IA before. And so I thought, yeah, like why not? I'm just gonna see how it goes. Dan dari situlah akhirnya kan bertemu dengan teman-teman yang lain dan akhirnya tahu, okay, like I think I want to be a part of this particular field in the Aussie Indo space. Walaupun mungkin kedepannya in a kind of like non-traditional setting. Karena biasanya kalau Aussie Indo space sebenarnya biasanya harus jadi diplomat, harus jadi bekerja di Kemenlu. Like there are the options, there are the avenues yang kamu bisa jelajahi where you can still be a part of the space tanpa harus be involved in the in the traditional setting seperti yang kayak jadi diplomat atau kerja di Kemenlu. There are a lot of other space NGOs as well. Chika?
I think the mic is not on. The mic.
The important thing to have to enter the workplace, apart from skills, I suppose, the soft skills and all that, I think, well, remember when in the first question, kan aku bilang soal ekspektasi belajar di Australia itu seperti apa, sebenarnya nggak ada ekspektasi kan, karena juga kayak ya mau dibandingkannya dengan apa gitu agak sulit gitu kan. Tapi mungkin salah satu keuntungan dengan nggak ada ekspektasi tersebut dari awal itu adalah I can become open-minded with all the possible opportunities that I can, that I can have gitu. Karena ya, like Wes was saying, dia nggak bagus di sales kan, and I can sympathize with you because I'm also bad at sales, like terribly bad. Tapi di situ kayak dari pembelajaran yang kayak, oh ternyata aku nggak bisa begini ya, tapi ternyata aku lebih kuat di sini. So, that's the one you probably should try to work on gitu. Memang benar kalau di job marketnya sekarang itu emang sangat kompetitif sekarang itu. Memang banyak teman-temanku yang bilang, wah sulit sekali untuk mendapatkan pekerjaan ya gitu. Padahal aku udah punya ini semua, udah mencentang semua yang diperlukan oleh job employer gitu, dan terus tetap aja nggak diterima, nggak dapat interview and all that. And I understand, emang sulit sekali saat ini. And that's why I think, apart from, I think, like skills, like soft skills, you can learn them in a way gitu. And maybe a lot of people can have them, but you have to remember that you're also very unique. Like just because, I learn accounting and then my friend also learns accounting, we're not technically the same person because he's going to have one advantage that I don't have, and maybe I have something that I have that he doesn't have gitu. Jadi mungkin just try to develop as much as possible on what you are really strong at. And maybe the second thing I would add is networking. Now maybe it sounds like ya kemana ya carinya business networking di mana gitu, harus pergi ke mana tempat-tempat seperti itu. Sebenarnya sih it doesn't have to be a business networking juga itu acaranya. You can go to all sorts of groups, communities like that. For example with IA, I found that out by accident gitu, kayak karena ketemu aja kayak, oh menarik banget ada perkumpulan grup pemuda Australia sama Indonesia gitu. Ya jadi datang aja, ternyata wah menarik banget, dapat teman-teman baru gitu. Ya banyak insight aja gitu dari mereka. Oh bagaimana ternyata ya orang Australia itu melihat Indonesia itu seperti apa dan sebaliknya kayak gitu. Jadi itu menjadi kayak semacam forum untuk kita saling membantu juga gitu. Jadi kayak sebenarnya I would say just attend any events when you have the opportunity to do it, because you never know, you might meet someone, you might learn something out of it, dan ya mungkin when you look back at it kayak, oh ya untung aku ikut itu ya, because turns out it did help me in the end.
Yeah, thank you for that. Other questions? We get the mic.
Check.
Yeah, I think.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Stephen. I'm from All in Edu Space as the independent educational consultant, and our client is from international school around Jakarta, and some of them wants to go to overseas, especially there is also go to Australia. I have two questions actually. First to Miss Grace. My question is it possible for high school students to take course from Pintar to polish their personal skills in order to prepare them in university application? Because as we know that in order to go to your overseas, they just not need to only a school report, but they need also like personal skill and their experience in work. And is it online or offline, which is like an internship during a summer break? They can take the online or there is also a offline course, and especially for those who wants to continue their studies in Australia. Okay, and the second one is for Mr. Chika or Wisnu, because you guys from Australian graduate, do you have any suggestion for high school students who is to continue their studies in Australia, especially the essential soft skill? Because as we know, the report card is not enough. They need also a soft skill. And if you know, what is the most demanding university major in Australia right now? Okay,
Great.
thank you.
So Grace first. And
Yep.
then
I'll answer the second part of the question. So all the courses that we offer currently are fully online. So we don't have any offline or kind of like internship placements. And then for the question is, can high school students take our courses? Yes. So again, anyone can take it. It's just, is it relevant or not? I think just browse through our catalog online. So I think we have some soft skills courses that are offered, and we continue to add more. I think particularly for Australia, I think language learning would be one thing, and then I think second would be like probably writing skills in order to prep them for, you know, the entrance exam or just the first year of university. So I think those are the most relevant courses. But you know, if they, you know, have a current part-time job, or I know a lot of youth nowadays, you know, they have their self businesses. If they want to continue to improve themselves, then please do take a look at our courses. Yeah.
great. Wes?
Untuk SMA ya? SMA saya. Okay, I think I'm gonna also bit of an information, and please correct me, Chloris, if I'm wrong. Dari perspektif murid-murid Indonesia sama Australia. So one of the key differences between Australian and Indonesian students adalah Australian students tend to be pushed to be a bit more independent from the get-go, like from high school, kind of like even maybe like middle school up. Jadi banyak orang murid-murid Australia itu yang umurnya masih 16, 15, 17 tahun dan mereka sudah bekerja, like part-time di McDonald's contohnya atau di pet shop seperti itu. Jadi and those are important untuk mereka karena mereka juga tahu, mereka juga sadar bagaimana kalau mereka waktu lulus kuliah, like the labor market is already saturated. Jadi mereka harus sudah mempunyai pengalaman kerja even before they got into labor market, which is I know it sounds silly because you're supposed to be, you know, like especially when it's like an entry level with a like 2 years experience, which is something entry level should be 0 experience. Jadi banyak orang yang akhirnya mempersiapkan diri mereka dengan bekerja sewaktu masih SMA. I know it might not be the culture di Indonesia, and let's be honest, like, you know, if you go to a like Indonesian high schools, like I think some of us are definitely more privileged that we actually don't really have to work. Jadi lebih gampangnya untuk pengalamanku sendiri adalah kenapa aku waktu itu diterima masuk untuk Bridge Project, karena waktu itu aku direkrut oleh guru, tapi karena itu waktu itu teman-teman ada yang ikutan English Debate Club waktu itu di SMA. Terus aku waktu itu cuman I thought it's fun. Aku cuma mau lihat aja. Terus aku bukan member. Aku cuma datang ke kelasnya, cuma ikutan ngobrol. Setelah itu baru kita ada program ini nih, kayaknya bahasa Inggrismu bagus. Kamu mau ikut apa enggak? So and if you actually from, you know, like high schools, private or public, you know, which offer like a wider range of ex-school yang bisa kamu pilih, I think nggak usah minder. Kalau kamu ada ex-school yang memang kamu suka, kamu ikuti. Dulu one of my big regrets waktu SMP itu ada mata kuliah kelas pilihan, kelas pilihan itu elektronika, tata buku, tata boga. I wanted to do tata boga because, like, you know, I love cooking. I would like to I love cooking for my friends and for families. Cuman permasalahannya waktu itu adalah yang ikut tata boga itu cewek semua. And I wanted to join, tapi sama teman-temanku yang lain kayak you don't want to go to, you know, to the class and then like you're gonna be the only guy over there? Like, why don't you just, be a guy and just join elektro? So that's kind of like, okay, aku kira aku masuk elektro aja. So I think nowadays, I think it's important kalau memang kamu tertarik di suatu bidang dan sekolahmu SMA SMP memberikan opsi untuk kamu mengeksplor seperti itu sangat sangat penting untuk kamu like explore. Jadi nggak usah minder apakah teman-teman lainnya mau ngomong apa. If you like cooking, just go with cooking. Kalau kamu suka tata boga, ya masuk sana. Kalau tata buku ya juga silakan ke sana. Kalau memang kamu lebih condongnya ke fisika, elektronika, dan kamu bisa ke sana juga.
I don't know how useful this is going to be, considering that I was doing my high school in Australia, and I don't really know exactly what's the learning experience with high schools in Indonesia, ya, kayak SMA gitu kan. I only did SMP, and I think it's probably very different to SMA. But what I can say is that one thing that I probably had to learn transitioning from high school to university is discipline sih. Karena just like what Wes was saying, kalau di universitas di Australia itu mungkin mereka murid-murid dan dosen itu kan mereka sangat independen ya, itu dalam arti kata kayak you have the freedom to do whatever you want gitu. We give you the resources, well, take advantage of it, and if you fail or whatever, then that's not really our fault, that's your fault kind of way. Itu beda banget mungkin sama di SMA yang dimana mungkin gurunya kalau kayak misalnya kamu nggak memperhatikan if you don't pay attention, like kalau nggak memperhatikan guru atau nggak kerjain PR kan kayak langsung diomelin gitu kan. Mungkin the teachers really try to to discipline their students gitu. Tapi ini kalau di Universitas Australia itu sama sekali nggak ada kayak gitu sih. Jadi memang kayak ya gurunya nggak akan nanya kok datang telat atau kok PR-nya ini belum dikerjain. Ya mereka diem aja gitu kayak ya udah kan I already gave you all the stuff that you need to learn. Do whatever you want, istilahnya kayak gitu. And I think without that self-discipline in the first place, I would have, I think guaranteed, I would have probably failed a lot of subjects karena ya memang kalau udah kayak istilahnya itu nggak di supervise gitu ya, nggak ada micromanagement gitu, kayak jadi merasa kayak oh bebas banget ya gitu, terus jadinya kayak ya jadi males juga kadang-kadang gitu kan, nggak di ini. So you have to be self-aware juga gitu kayak yes you are being given all sorts of resources, but you really got to take advantage of what's on your disposal, basically.
Great, thank you for that. We are sadly running out of time, so we won't be able to ask any more questions from the audience here in the room. So I'm just going to go. I know you really want to ask questions, but we're going to have to shift this to the networking session afterwards. I just have a quick question from our Zoom audience, and this is directed to Wes and Chika, and I'm going to ask you both to just comment briefly so that we have time for lunch. This question is from Nasyoa. She has asked, as Indonesian students who have great enthusiasm to continue their studies at the best universities, like universities in Australia, what do we need to prepare, especially around, critical thinking, in order to be able to survive and adapt when we're actually there? Since you've mentioned before that learning in Australia is quite different and challenging compared to learning in Indonesia. So brief comments from both of you.
I think Chika has already mentioned it, like to always keep an open mind. Dan itu sangat berguna in a lot of situation karena it allows you to just take everything and learn everything, absorb all the information, dan itu also allows you to be more flexible in the way that you do things. Kalau misalnya aku tidak so open mind dalam artian datang kuliah di Australia dengan pengalaman yang sudah aku pelajari di Indonesia, like I don't think I'll be as I don't think I'll be getting a good grade. Jadi salah satunya adalah keep an open mind. Kalau memang that's how they do things, okay, let's play by the rules. Kita juga harus bisa fleksibel dengan itu. Dan yang satu lagi adalah if you really like university, prepare early. Jadi jangan mulai preparation untuk masuk kuliah 1 bulan sebelumnya atau mungkin 6 bulan 1 semester sebelumnya. Aku jujur aja untuk beasiswa Australia Awards itu aku butuh 5 tahun. So I knew about the scholarship 2015, and then waktu itu masih belum lulus kuliah. So aku lulus 2018. So like it took me like a few years untuk mempersiapkan diri. Jadi look at like what kind of universities that you want, what kind of programs. Look at the minimum requirements, and then see if you can build your portfolio untuk memenuhi kriteria itu and above. So it's not just enough that you meet all the criteria, but also do something a bit more above that as well. Karena itu akan membuatmu like differentiate yourself between you and your peers.
Chico?
I have to agree with what most of Wes said was pretty much spot on. Just being adaptable, being flexible, being open-minded, and just prepare early before you go studying. Doesn't matter if it's Australia, anywhere else outside of your home city. You just need to prepare yourself early. Try to learn your surroundings. Try to learn, like where your campus is at. Maybe it's not possible, but try to search as much as possible online because studying is one thing, but trying to live your life in campus, and all that's another thing. Dan memang aku juga dengar banyak juga teman-temanku yang di Australia yang orang Indo juga gitu, banyak yang juga yang kayak struggling, trying to adapt to the culture in Australia gitu, karena beda banget sama di Indo kan gitu. Terus mereka ujung-ujungnya kayak homesick, pengen pulang deh, ini udah nggak seru gitu, something like that, well, for me, all I can say to them was, I don't know, man. Like you should have just try to learn as much as possible with the culture and the people around you gitu. Karena ya nggak mungkin juga kita kuliah di luar sana itu kita sendirian doang gitu, nggak ada berteman, nggak ada bersosialisasi gitu. So I think pretty much what you've said, being prepared early is really good.
Yeah, thank you. And I will comment that it was one of the reasons that I was created to accommodate Indonesian international students who sort of felt a bit alone when they were studying in Australia. They might have many Indonesian friends, for example, but it's part of that sort of acclimatizing to the place that you're in. You want to, if you're studying in Australia, you want to have Australian friends too. But sometimes it can be a bit scary to introduce yourself to someone new, especially when they're from a different culture or have a different background, or perhaps don't know anything about Indonesia. Maybe they know about Bali, but they don't know about Indonesia in the Australian context, right? I think for you two in particular, you benefited a lot from being part of the IA community and met a lot of Aussies that you might not have met. And so if you're an Indonesian student who's worried about traveling to a different country to study, and you would have had this experience when you studied in the US, right? Just find those community bases to make friends. And don't worry, if you study in like Melbourne or Sydney or something, there's definitely sambal, so like jangan khawatir.
In the US there's sambal too.
So thank you so much to our panelists for this really insightful conversation. I think everyone has learned a lot. We're just going to quickly give you guys some gifts for your time today. So, thank you. So, Grace, here you go. Do we have a photo? Okay, thank you. You come here. Thank you. And finally, to go. Thank you. And I'm going to pass back to Lala, but I think for the next event, we're going to have to do a sesi masak with Wes, seeing as he's so keen on cooking. So I'll hand back to Lala, and then I think we're going to have some networking and lunch together.
We get an applause for our speakers and panelists. Oh, that was really insightful and sangat informatif sekali ya mengenai kolaborasi antara Katalis dan juga Pintar. What I get from this panel is that through the collaboration between Pintar and Katalis, all the Australian courses will be accessible to Indonesian learners, whether they are from students in the schools or for the workforce in Indonesia. So it will be a very interesting collaborations. The first one between Indonesia and Australia. So we're excited to have that starting next year. Oke, seru banget perbincangannya tadi, tapi udah nggak kerasa nih kita udah 1,5 jam bersama. Sekarang waktunya kita bungkus acara ini. Dan teman-teman yang hadir di Kampus Pintar, mari kita makan siang. Dan untuk teman-teman yang bergabung online, terima kasih atas partisipasinya dan kami harap bisa berjumpa lagi di acara berikutnya. Selamat siang dan selamat berakhir pekan semuanya. Sorry, sebelum kita mulai makan, untuk yang hadir secara offline bisa kita grup foto dulu di depan atau di kayaknya di sini aja deh. Ya, di sini aja. Tapi agak backlight kalau di sini, Mbak. Jadi we'll move. Jadi mungkin Faris dan juga panelis. Nah. Terima kasih semuanya. Aku mau ngumumin sedikit untuk teman-teman yang udah upload di Instastory dan juga tag Katalis, Aya, dan Pintar di IG Story-nya. Ada Reno, ada Asha, dan Aroshad. Apakah ada di sini semua? Bisa maju ke depan? Dan saya minta Mbak Hansa atau Bening untuk memberikan hadiah. Aroshad tuh Bobby. Terima kasih untuk partisipasinya. Oke, langsung kita makan-makan aja. Terima kasih.
Hidup ini perlu lebih dari sekedar bertahan. Hari esok harus lebih baik dari hari ini. Gimana mau naik jabatan kalau selalu dianggap gak mumpuni? Andaikan ada cara yang lebih mudah untuk ningkatin keterampilan. Keterampilan harus terus diasah. Belajar tidak lagi kenal batas. Jelajahi kursus untuk tingkatkan keahlianmu. Tingkatkan karir, raih masa depan.